G'day everyone, it's Joe here again today, and I'm very excited because ProFantasy has released a new set of mapping tools. And what's special about these mapping tools is that yours truly made all of the symbols for them. Now, the story behind this is that I was working on the high-space core system maps for Patrick and Storyweaver, and it took me well over a month to produce all these beautiful planets and star systems and wormholes and really nice original artwork that was something quite different from what we see out there in a lot of other science fiction games. And I looked at all this artwork and I was using Campaign Cartographer to assemble these into maps, and I thought to myself, this is a great set of tools, this is a great set of images and symbols, let's donate this over to ProFantasy. So I contacted Ralph over at ProFantasy and said, would you like this stuff? And he said, hells yeah, and sent over the entire kit, and he's put it together as a Campaign Cartographer tool set as part of their annual. Now the annual, although I donated all of my stuff, the annual is not free, but it's a very, very good product. Basically every month gives you new mapping tools, new ideas, new tutorials. It's fantastic. Strongly recommend if you're into fantasy or science fiction mapping, grab that product. It's well worth the price. Anyway, they've developed this wonderful toolkit, and I'm going to show you today how it looks and how it works. Now on the screen here you can see a ProFantasy website. To get access to the annual, you simply click on Products, Annuals, and you'll see down here the 2013 annual. They've got a lot of different maps and styles already this year. There's Overland, there's beautiful, beautiful fantasy maps here, and then this wonderful kids map. I actually posted one of those up earlier. I just love mapping for kids. But here's my stuff. The Campaign Cartographer August 2013 high space map set. Now, this is labelled under Cartographer, but actually you don't need Campaign Cartographer add-on to use this pack. You can use it with the standard Campaign Cartographer toolset. So let's get straight to it. I'm just going to minimize that. This is an example of one of the maps which I created, not using this toolset, but using doing this all by hand with Campaign Cartographer. You can see they're pretty nice looking maps. These are the core system maps that you can actually obtain commercially from rpgnow.com, all using the symbol sets that you're going to get in this catalogue. So I'm just going to close that as well. And that. So what we'll now do is we'll fire up Campaign Cartographer. There it is. And you've got your initial map here from the last piece of work I was working on. You can see that I'm working on some beautiful starships here. Oh, I just love starship mapping. And what we'll then do is to create a new system map for high space. We're going to click on the New Map button here. You can also click it by going New File, but it's just as easy to use the New Map button there. It's asking me if I want to save changes to this map. I'm going to say no. Then it's going to give you a list of the general categories of map templates that you have access to. This particular set gets saved under the Cosmographer toolsets. Now, even if you don't have Cosmographer, you still have access to this if you've got the annual. So I'm going to go next. As you can see, I've got a lot of different templates loaded in, and the one that we're going to want, here's some work I did. There we go. The one that I want for this demo is Annual High Space System Portrait. Ralph also produced a beautiful landscape system map tool to give you sort of that planar view of system maps. That uses some lovely NASA-based backgrounds, or you can go for the high space stuff, which actually is all the backgrounds are rendered from the Lantern Nebula, which I created with 3D software. So, Annual High Space Systems Portrait. Next. Just leave the dimensions as is, 800 by 1000. Next. Now this I love. What they've done is they've written a macro that allows you to select the background, and as you can see I've got about a dozen different backgrounds there that I created. I'm going to go for this lovely blue. There's a nice blue one there which we've got to sort of, yeah, that one. Lovely blue background with this big S sweep of nebula through it and a yellow sun. So I'm going to go, yep, that's what I want, and just finish. I'm going to call this map, let's think of a good name for a world. Let's call it Hell's Bane. There we go. So there's our system map background. Now, what you'll also see is that there's a whole bunch of planets and new systems down the side here. And it doesn't look like there's very many, but in fact there's well over 200, close to 300 of them. What we've done is we've categorized them into general types. You've got Earth-like planets, moons, ocean planets, greenhouse planets, polluted planets, desert planets, dead planets, death worlds, because I had to give a little bit over to Warhammer because I just love Warhammer 40k. Pinko, because I couldn't think of any other name for this generic type of planet. Those tend to be lead-heavy planets, if you will, in the sciences. Ringed planets. Now, one of the things really missing from mapping tools for science fiction are ringed planets. So I spent a lot of time creating quite a good collection of those. Gas giants, suns, comets, and again, another thing missing from a lot of science fiction maps is the trajectory of comets. Burning systems, I don't know, I just felt like I should do some of those. Singularities, which is weird sort of planet things, and wormholes. So a lot more depth and a lot more choice. And within each of these, there's up to a dozen, sometimes more, maps. So, for example, if you see the little X here, that means that this symbol actually contains more. And the little R underneath it means the symbol set, if you click on it, it's going to give you a different symbol every time. Now, let's just zoom into the map and I'll demonstrate that for a second. So I'm going to click on this. Now, you can see there's a world. If I click on it again, you can see the world will change. So that R symbol means random. So they've actually taken my planets and made them so that you can just drop them down, bang, 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 and you'll get a different planet each time. Now, if you don't like the planet that you've got on the screen at any given time, you can push the Tab key and it will change it for you. Likewise, if you wanted a different moon, you can see that the moons can change incrementally as well. So very easy to get about. So there's your catalogue down the side. Your normal mapping tools for campaign cartographer system maps for the orbits are listed here. Now, if I'm going to right-click on that, you can see all your various options for your orbits. I don't recommend that you use this tool for mapping with this particular template. For the planar template, not a problem. That's the landscape one. But for this one, I'm going to show you a different technique, which is faster and gives you better results. So I'm just going to close that down. Let's zoom out to the full. Before we start putting down the orbits, and I always put down my orbits first, at least the main planetary orbits first on this map, the first thing to do is make sure that you've got the sheets selected to orbits. You've got a width of, let's say, 0.5. You don't need a very thick line for the orbits, but you do need a line. And make sure that you've got the layers set to orbits as well. So orbits, orbits, and a width for your line, and a colour. I normally make my orbits plain white, but that's a stylistic choice. ProFantasy has made them slightly off-white. So once you've got that, instead of using this orbit tool here, I'm going to suggest you use this arc tool here. If you right-click on it, you'll see that you've got a whole bunch of options. Start, end, bulge, start, bulge, and end, and so forth. Quite frankly, the first one is all that you need. So you can literally just click on this symbol right here, and you've got your orbit tool. And the reason why I like it is you can just go start, end, and then you just draw it up along that center plane from the sun. You can click each edge of the map, and you can put another orbit in. Now, if you want the orbit to be a little bit elliptical and a little bit off, you can do it like that. So now you've got this sort of sweep of the orbit. I'm going to put another orbit in here, which is more of a standard one. And we'll put another orbit up here. We'll make this one quite narrow. And finally one right at the edge of space, right at the edge of the system. There we go. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 orbits, all ready to rock and roll. Let's now put some planets down. So this is where the fun comes in. If you click on the symbol, you'll notice that it will change where you're going to place this. And I'm going to take the sun now. Sorry, this Earth-like planet. This Earth-like planet is way too big. So I'm going to right-click on it, and you can see the scale is 1.7. I'm just going to make it 1. That's much more likely. I'm also going to drop it down here on the orbit line. So there's our orbit. It's in the Goldilocks zone, the green zone. I'm going to drop an ocean planet on here as well, and I'm going to make this one slightly bigger. I'm going to make it 1 point... Actually, let's make it bigger still. 1.5. There we go. And I'm going to drop it, say, here on that orbit. Now, I'm going to place a wonderful ringed planet. Now, I think that ringed planet's not quite right, so I'm going to push the Tab key and find a ringed planet that's going to work for me. That looks Great. I'm going to pop that one right there. Let's put a gas giant in as well. Find a nice gas giant for us. That's a good looking gas giant. And I'm going to make this one much bigger. I'm actually going to make this 2. I'm going to put that right... You know what? Technically, it should probably be where the water planet is, because usually large planets are much further further in. You know what I'll do? I'll add another orbit in here. There we go. And I'll put the gas giant right on it. There we go. There's the gas giant. And finally, we'll have a little dead desert planet. Or maybe a death world, because I love the death world planets. Bring this down to 1, and we'll pop him right over there in our orbit. Let's put a couple more little planets in there, just to complete those 2 inner orbits. I'll use another desert planet. There's one. There we go. You can see I'm just pushing the tab key to get the... I'm going to turn the snap off so I can position it right on there. And I'm going to make this one smaller as well. I'm going to make it really small. There we go. So there you go. We've now got our star system mostly mapped out, and that's taken, you know, a couple of minutes. Very, 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 very quick. The next thing that you do is start applying labels. So, but before I do that, I'm just going to turn on the Sheets and Effects, and I'm going to turn on Activate Sheets and Effects, High Space System, and I'm just going to click on OK. And now what you'll see is that the orbit lines have faded ever so slightly into the background, and they look gorgeous. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to put another orbit in here. I'm going to start the orbit and turn the snapping back on. I'm going to start the orbit near the Sun. I'm going to have it come right out to there, and I'm going to have it come in at a real strong elliptic curve, and I'm going to put in a comet. I'll make this size 1, and there you go. There's my comet streaming through. In fact, I've got a nicer, I've got a red comet, I think. There we go. There's the red comet. And I put it down there. Now, one of the things which I do with comet lines, and you don't have to do this, but I just quite like it, is I like to have them being a dotted line, and I'll show you the best dotted line for this for printing. I'm going to click on this function here, which is the Change Element tool. I'm going to click on the orbit in question. I'm then going to right-click, go Do It, and the line style I'm going to change to ECW-12. Now, when that's redrawn, you can see that it's given these big gaps in the line. When this is actually rendered out to an A4 size image, that will be nice and crisp. So that shows you the difference between our lines. Let's now go to putting our labels on. To do the labeling, you first of all want to make sure that you've got the right sort of settings, label settings established. And I'm going to go right-click there, and I'm going to use HemiHead 426. Now, HemiHead 426 is a great font. It is available freely online from things like 1001 Free Fonts and other sources. Grab it and add it to your mapping toolkit. So there we go, HemiHead. I'm going to call the system, what do we call this system? I think we called it Hellbane. Hellbane. There we go. Now, Hellbane, unfortunately, I've got that way too small, so I'm going to change this again. I've also got the angle at 90 degrees. We'll change that. I'll call this, say, 45. I'm going to change this to text as well. So we're changing the sheet to texts. We're changing the headings to texts. That looks all good to me. Click there. Hellbane. There we go. Now we could increase the size of that if we so wish. Let's start naming the planets now with that. So let's call the outermost planet Kuran. Stick it there. We'll call this one Morpheus. And we'll call this one Torch. Down here. So there you go. I'm going to now just adjust this heading here because I think it's a little too small. And we'll adjust the textual properties. to say 60. There we go. Redraw. Let's move him into position. Do it. Move him into position. There we go. Fantasticals. You now have a pretty good looking system ready to rock and roll. So I'll just redraw that. Now, you want to output this to your gaming table. It's very, very simple. There's a couple of ways that you can do it. The first way is to simply print it using the print function, and you could print this to a piece of paper. For the mapping production, which I've been doing, I tend to be very specific in outputting it at a very high scale, very high image level, so that I can bring it into PDFs. And I'll show you how to do that now. So first of all, I'm just going to save the map. Then what I'm going to do is go File, Save As. Now, instead of saving it as a campaign cartographer file, I'm going to save it as a, in this case, we'll save it as a JPEG. If you want a higher resolution still or more closer relationship to the pixels, then you can always go for bitmap or PNG files, but for size, I'm going for JPEG. Now, click on the Options button here, and you'll be able to get your width and your height. Now, if you were producing this for an A4 page, it would need to be a little bit larger than this, about 3,000 by about 4,500 pixels, in order to print that out at 300 dpi. 300 dots per inch, that's how you can measure it. For this example, I'm not going to produce it out at that quality because it'll just take too long to render. This is just a demo. I'm just going to do it as 1,000 by 2,000. Keep the anti-aliasing on a little bit. Do crop the image to aspect ratio. That will clear off any extraneous stuff. And you can select either 8-bit or 24-bit. I'm just going to leave it. Actually, I'm going to move it up to 24-bit. Quality is. Let's drop the quality down a little. Let's make it 95. There we go. Click on OK. Give it the name. Click on Save. Now, it'll go away, and you can see that it's processing now. And pretty soon we're going to have our system map done. Let's now take a look at that. So I better go to High Space, CC3 Projects, Star Systems for High Space. There it is. Now if we look at it, just look at the detail in this. It's absolutely superb. There you go. So you can see that the text has got a beautiful little black crisp outline around it. We can see that dotted line for the orbit. You can see the planets look absolutely gorgeous. It's all set to go. That's it. So in just a few minutes you can create your very own system maps for high space, or in fact any other science fiction game you wish. It's a great tool. I put a lot of tender love and care into the simple sets. I really hope you like it. Talk to you next time. Bye.